Okay, all right. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, just react, give us a little emoji so that I know that we're all here and we're listening. I can see it. There are a lot of us. Yes, wonderful. Okay, I can see a lot of us are already here. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today for this important and timely session titled Beyond the Law, Navigating Compliance, FinCrime, and Technology in a Changing World. My name is Andrea Ebite, and I am the moderator for today's session. I'm actually the marketing lead at Injukim Legal. Injukim Legal is a growing law firm that is dedicated to helping individuals and businesses navigate legal and compliance matters with clarity and excellence. Now, we at Injukim Legal, we are very passionate at empowering the next generation of lawyers so that they are able to build meaningful and specialized careers. We have a webinar series, and this is part of our commitment to knowledge sharing, mentorship, and community impact. And now this webinar is designed for lawyers, whether you're just starting, whether you're considering a specialization, or you're looking to pivot. Any lawyer who is curious about what a career at the intersection of compliance, financial crime prevention, and technology looks like, what the entry points are, and how to get started with the right tools and insights, this webinar is for you. So welcome again. Let me begin by welcoming our prestigious speaker, Emmanuel. Emmanuel is a legal counsel, FinCrime investigator, and compliance specialist. He has built a career at the intersection of law, technology, and compliance. He combines his legal background with advanced studies in fintech and AI. He explores how technology can drive ethical innovation and responsible governance. He is passionate about building transparent, fair, and inclusive digital systems that empower people and protect institutions. In fact, all the English that I'm saying now, there is just saying Emmanuel is our legal and tech whiz, and we are very, very happy to have you here. Emmanuel, please, over to you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I'm all of those things, but I will try. And
we believe you are.
Please, can you go back to the first page again?
Okay, all right.
And so the topic my friend sent to me, my friend is a founder of Injukim Legal. She's been a good friend for years now. She sent Beyond the Law, Navigating Compliance, FinCrime, and Technology in a Changing World. I'm like, this woman wants to put me in trouble. I think most of our audience are Nigerians, right? So you don't mind if I speak a little broken English. I will suspend my locally acquired foreign accent for now. So I'm not like, okay, I'm going to modify this topic to suit what I can actually deliver. And so I added an exploration of how compliance, financial crime prevention, and technology converge to shape the future of global finance, because that's what I'm actually working on and exploring in my studies. And that's the sector I've worked in for a while now. Next slide, please. So if you want to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's the QR code. And you can connect with me. You can send me a message. Just mention that you were in this webinar and I will reply. If I don't respond immediately, please message again. I will try and get to you. I still have the QR code at the end of the presentation, so don't worry. Next slide. Okay, she already introduced me, and these are some of the fields I'm interested in. Can we all see the screen? Because from my end, I can see the bottom of the slide. Can you all hear me? I can't tell if you can hear me.
Yes, they can.
All
I
right.
can see the reactions.
Okay. So why this topic matters globally? Like you know, we've lived in huts, we've lived on trees at some point, but now we live online. So the world is digitally connected. And right now the world operates as a single entity. Also, there's the global threat, which is always evolving. The more we have technologies to mitigate certain types of threats, the more scammers, the more bad actors also evolve with technology. Just yesterday, there was a report of a coordinated attack using AI, the first of its kind. It was a system built using codes from Anthropic, Cloud's Anthropic, and it launched a global attack on banks, on chemical producers, on weapon systems. And if not that, some of these countries also have measures that they've taken, preemptive measures to envisage this kind of threat. It will have been a disaster yesterday. Innovation versus risks. This, like the first point I made. One moment. Survival imperative. Companies must simultaneously innovate. In the world we have now, you either innovate or you die. Rising expectation. Regulators worldwide. So many of us are lawyers, you know, of the GDPR and the EU Act and the recent EU AI Act. Every day, every year, we're having new regulations that people in this field have to put into consideration. You have to be up and doing as someone in the compliance field, because if you're not, your organization will suffer reputational damage, or worse, you'll be fined heavily. So what is the global compliance landscape in 2025? Recently, we're having stricter AML, CFT standards. We're having tougher laws because of the kind of, what do we call them, predicate offenses tied to anti-money laundering. Then and almost everything is coming together. When I ventured into the FinCrime world, I entered as a customer support compliance agent. I was doing my master's in human rights law. Let me tell you a brief story about myself. When I studied law, it was all about human rights. One day I'll graduate, lead protests, and bring down Nigeria to its knees, change everything. But like almost every human rights activist, you soon realize that you need to eat. You need food to survive and fight. So most times you realize that you must have a source of income to pursue that dream of human rights. Even the great Gani Fawemi had the Nigerian Weekly Law Report, which was bringing in money. So with that money, was able to fight for human rights cause. So back to what I was saying. Now we have a situation where AML, data privacy, sanctions are coming together under one umbrella. When I joined fintech as an AML investigator, most of those departments don't really talk to each other. We have people in data, we have people in sanctions. I was in AML, and everybody just did their thing. But right now, it is built in such a way that all the compliance-related departments have to talk to each other. I'm going to kind of breeze through this because we're running against time, but I'm going to make this presentation available for anyone that wants to go through it in details. So we have certain technologies that are transforming the compliance and FinCrime space. Like we all know, the AI rave, the AI craze is still ongoing. So we have advanced algorithms, natural language processing, detecting complex patterns and suspicious behavior, usually patterns that will have taken human agents maybe weeks, months to figure out. You can now do that with AI. Last semester, I took AI and machine learning course in my program, in my current program. And I was shocked to discover that there are already some simple systems that you can test out. I don't know if you're familiar with a platform called Cargo. They have some data sets that you can use to practice. And I and my team built a simple sanctions detecting system. I have it on my, I think on my profile on LinkedIn. So if you want to do something like that or play around with it to see what people in the field are doing, you can check that out. Next, we have regulatory technology automation. So instead of having a lawyer sit down and read the laws line by line, so many of these have been streamlined into workflows. People can now, we now have different technology that different organizations use to track if they are in compliance with all the laws around the world. Then blockchain analytics. I don't know if we're familiar with Chainalysis, is the most popular one. This is like investigation, but on the blockchain. So companies like, what are the popular Bitcoin companies? I'm trying to remember this Chinese one, the most popular one. So mostly Bitcoin companies use these tools to analyze the blockchain because bad actors too have come up with things like tumblers. They steal Bitcoin from someone, mix it through what they call mixer or tumbler, and it's almost impossible to trace. So blockchain analytics is the skill you need to trace when Bitcoin is stolen. Then open banking APIs. The fintech I used to work for, they have API that you can connect to. The fintech is known as Wise Payments Limited. Many banks, it started as a small fintech, but now they even send money on behalf of banks. So you can connect to their API. And this increased the risks for both the fintech and the bank, because in some cases, the customers are not even aware that these agreements are made behind the scene. Then we have cloud-based system. In recent time, most organizations have moved their storage. And this is scalable, and it comes with its own risks, because if the cloud system is down, then everything is grounded. So next, I'm going to talk about evolution of financial crime worldwide. So the modern threat matrix. Financial crime has evolved past the fraud, wire, like our parents used to call it. Someone calls someone, pretend to be this. And it's now using more of cutting-edge technology to violate people, especially vulnerable people, older people, young people. And I don't know if we're familiar with the concept of pig butchery. Is a sophisticated Chinese scheme whereby they could spend a lot of money running into hundreds of thousands of USD, even millions to set it up. They have an office, a very sophisticated establishment. They have servers. Then they kidnap people too. They kidnap people, force them to work like scamming slaves. And they call people and talk to people for months, and they cover their trails too. And it's very sophisticated. That's the kind of scam we're having from Asia at the moment. Personally, when people be like, Nigeria is one of the top scamming country, as someone that's worked in the field, I know we're not even in the top 10. The Nigerians are still at the level of a Yahoo boy, talk to old woman in the UK. She sent what do they call it, gift card. No, they are even our most advanced criminals, hush puppy, are not at that level yet. So we're in the world of deep fakes, skilled social engineering. This could take months, yes. Synthetic identities. Some of us have played around with generating images online one of the ones that really cracked me up recently is the FCT minister. I've seen a lot of video, AI-generated video of him interacting with a military man, and some of them are really funny. And if for an older person that looks very, very real, then we have Global Scam Network. I don't know who remembers the case of Invictus, the young Nigerian guy that gathered a scamming network, and they were all over the place. Some were in Malaysia, some were in the US. So the way you have global law firm is the way now we have global crime syndicates too. So as much as the world is becoming a global village, we still have regional differences. One of my professors will say that the US innovates, China replicates, and EU regulates, because there's hardly any innovation coming out of the EU now. But when you're looking for regulation, their lawyers, their regulatory people are working overtime. Once any technology comes, they put all sorts of bottlenecks in it and make it nearly impracticable to work with. So right now, through the UN framework, we're moving towards more of global regulation, because some of this technology is going to affect humanity as a whole. And then the identity system has to evolve. The ID system, ID tracking systems have to evolve. And also in the coming years, at least by 2030, most of the AI companies are projecting that by 2030, we will have mass digital adoption. And in fact, it's going to be like most people will have digital identity. We won't have physical IDs again, and which is raising concerns. I was in a webinar recently, and AI and financial technology was being discussed in line with eschatology. Eschatology is the study of the end times. So we have CEOs in Silicon Valley actually talking about how AI could potentially be the tool the Antichrist will use. And if we look at all the Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, they both talk about something of this nature. So it's looking more like, okay, how will AI be perceived in the religious, should I call it sector now? How will religious people perceive AI, and how will they adopt it? It's a scary situation for everyone. So all these factors will be reflected in how each country writes their laws. One moment, please. My computer is freezing. So what are the main pain points? These are some of the pain points. I won't go through everything. So we've already talked about regulatory complexity, especially in Europe. Some of us have followed how big tech have been fined consistently, Facebook, sometimes Google, high compliance cost. Even though now with AI, some of the tooling, it has become easier for even small companies to build their internal tools. You don't have to subscribe to all this big, there's this world of compliance, Dow Jones. You don't have to pay for all that. You can build your own internal system for fraud detection, for card verification using vibe coding. Even people like me that are not very skilled with writing any Python scripts, I vibe code time to time and for my assignments, most times I just do something and copy the code and put it on GitHub, and you'll be looking like, wow, this lawyer that knows code. But then with your knowledge of English, and you just talk your way through it, and they'll be like, wow, rank a day, but you know how it goes. So how does regulatory technology fit in all this? These are some of the areas I've identified. I've done some of this, and I'm yet to do some of them. I've handled transaction monitoring, for example. So you define the parameters, that's how it works. I'll give you a good example, right? You can write a parameter. Let's say you work with an organization and you detect that there's a certain part of Nigeria, let's say, I'm not stereotyping, but let's say somewhere around Ogun State, and we have a lot of young Nigerians aged 18 to 35, always having some kind of financial dealings with, let's say, women 65 and above in the US. And most of this is romance scam. You've investigated this romance scam. It's giving your compliance team, your investigation team a lot of work to do. So you can write a parameter that, okay, once you detect a Nigerian customer within this age range, and a woman in the US within this age range, trigger an alert. So you will have reduced the work of manually having to check each transaction. It will trigger the alert. Some will be false negative, some will be false positives, but overall, you will be working faster than just doing it manually. Sanction screening is another one. The tool I've used is the World of Compliance tool and Dow Jones, but now you can build your own internal tool through vibe coding. You can get an expert, maybe consult an expert to just fine tune it. And how this works is that there's a Russian oligarch somewhere trying to send dirty money from because they are currently on the US sanction list over the war in Ukraine, and he's trying to send some money to the real estate sector in the UK. You can take his name and run it against the sanction, the OFAC sanction list, the FAFT sanction list, to see if that name will pop up, and which leads to reporting. Some people have automated reporting, so it can be risky because you are reporting to the regulatory authority. So SAR is suspicious activity report, and STR is suspicious transaction report. For common typology like fraud, credit card fraud, you're basically saying the same thing every time you report. You can automate it. Once this is alerted, it comes to an agent. The agent verifies that, okay, fraud has taken place. It clicks a button, it generates the report, it goes to the regulator. Next, I will be discussing AI opportunities, because that's the in thing now, and threats. So opportunities, we have predictive analytics. And with that, companies are now able to forecast fraud, like before fraud is even committed, based on what the profile, more like putting a risk score to customers and to organizations. You just see like a real estate company pop up on your radar, and the real estate company is registered by, let's say, someone from Romania who just moved to the UK. You'll be wondering that, okay, what kind of real estate company is this? You can predict that, okay, maybe they want to launder money with this, and you keep an eye on it. Pattern detection. Maybe someone sends money, even with the Nigerian, I don't know how much it is now, but in the US regulations, companies are mandated to report any transaction, individual transaction that is more than, I think, 10,000 USD. So imagine a situation where a customer, each time he wants to send money, is a very knowledgeable customer, maybe he's a lawyer, and he knows all these laws. And to avoid detection, every time he wants to send this dirty money, he sends 9,999, just enough to stay below the detection parameters. Some people do that. So we now have systems that can easily detect this. It can show that this person is trying to stay below the detecting threshold. So the threats. Now what we have is deep fakes. Something funny happened in the US I was reading about a couple of weeks ago. A fraudster called a Chinese student schooling in the US. And they told him that they have his parents with them and they are going to kill the parents if he doesn't send money. So this is a student that is just receiving his scholarship money and maybe he's on internship. So the money he was supposed to pay school fees with, he quickly sent it to them. And they want him not to tell anybody. They put him on the phone. He heard his mom crying. He heard his dad shouting. And they were going to kill them. And they asked him to send the money. Then they did something funny. They told him to leave his apartment and go into one of the forests with a tent and stay there till they give him further instruction. If not, they will kill his parents. So he did that, and they were looking for him. Meanwhile, his parents were calling him, trying to reach him. They couldn't reach him, and he was there in the forest, freezing. He passed out at some point. So when the police found him, what they discovered is that it wasn't his parents he was talking to on the phone. Someone has cloned their voice. Someone that knows the family has cloned their voice. They faked everything and sent it to him. He believed it, sent them money, and it was very, very disturbing. Also, with AI systems, we have model bias. AI is as good as the person training it. And you have an algorithm that maybe has inherent unfair training. Let me put it that way. Maybe it's detected, maybe it's, the algorithm is written in such a way that it is biased to Black people. Once it detects your race, it concludes that, oh, this person should not be given a loan. For many loan softwares have been discovered to have this kind of bias. And earlier I talked about synthetic identity and AI-generated phishing. We now have AI systems that are trained by fraudsters to just do phishing. They just have a room somewhere with computers, and every day they put on these computers and they send phishing emails around the world. Once you pay the money or once they get into your system, they withdraw money. The AI is trained to transfer it to the dark web and buy Bitcoin and send it to some complicated wallets. How many minutes do we have left, please? I want to be sure. Okay.
We are making good times. Yes.
All right. So building a modern compliance program, a comprehensive framework for establishing effective financial crime prevention and regulatory adherence. I've listed some of the things that's the best practices for building a modern compliance program. Number one, it has to be RBA at all times. It has to be a risk-based approach. You don't want a situation where you are reacting. You have to preempt the kind of risks you'll be getting into. Then you have to integrate technology. If you are a company or an individual that wants to survive the coming years, you can't have people manually doing anything. In fact, one of the common sayings now is that AI will not take your job. Someone using AI will take your job. So no matter what you do, even if you're in the medical field, even if some people even say that the physical labor, plumbing, and bricklaying are the only things that will not be affected by AI. I don't think that is true because we now have companies that are building construction bots that are just specifically built for building houses and doing manual labors. So for someone working as a plumber who is keeping abreast of all these kind of developments, I think we'll be better positioned to be one of the earliest adopters of that technology. And continuous training. You have to always improve yourself. Strong governance. Internally, you have to establish clear policies, procedures, escalation paths, and executive oversight. I mentioned cross-functional collaboration earlier. In the past, most teams work alone, but now if you must have an effective compliance system, you must work together with all the team as one unit. And now, this is one of the places I really want to dwell on: career paths into compliance and FinCrime. The most common entry point. I didn't know that this is specifically for lawyers, so I just prepared entry points for most of the major careers that most people that want to go into this field. So for law graduates, I guess most people on this call are law graduates. You can look into becoming a regulator, like regulatory analysis, AML frameworks, ethics, and policy interpretation. Law is not going out of fashion. In fact, we are having new aspects of law. The way things are going, I think law, the requirements for getting into the legal field, into most of the specializations in the legal field in years to come, will be more science-based. That is my own projection. Because imagine you're a tech lawyer, imagine you're an IT lawyer. So we're heading towards a time where law may become a science course. Like most of it will become a science course. And so for business and finance measures, you can look at risk assessments, audits, payment operations, financial analysis. For computer science and data measures, you can look at regulatory technology, fraud analytics, model development and data engineering, cybersecurity, threat intelligence, digital forensics, information and security control, banking operation, transaction processing, customer service, operational risk management, and investigations. I used to work as an investigator. Believe it or not, customer service is one of the best ways to get into investigation because you deal with a lot of customers. You see how they think. I worked in customer service for about 6 months, and sometimes when customer call, I could already tell, oh, this is a fraudster, and I escalate to the fraud team or to the ML team and things like that. So fraud detection, case management specialist, and things in that line. So what are the early career roles you can get into? KYC. KYC is know your customer. AML is anti-money laundering analyst. Reviewing customer documentation, conducting enhanced due diligence, and maintaining compliance files. And we have transaction monitoring, which I identified earlier. When I joined my team, then we used to use Excel sheets, and then you try to identify the pattern, you do keyword search and all that. But with technology now, all that is done in the background. You just see a dashboard. You see a dashboard with, it's not as hard as it sounds. You see a dashboard with all the pointers and things you should look for. Also color-coded in most instances. You can become a compliance associate. Most banks, most top fintech have this role. You can become a fraud analyst, which is very similar to AML analyst. These roles are usually interchangeable, and financial crime investigator. Next, we'll look at what you can do. Let's say you're a lawyer at the moment, you work in a law firm, and you're looking at positioning yourself for roles, maybe in-house or with top financial organizations. You can look at courses, core foundational courses. You'll find most of, if you search these words on Coursera, on Udemy, or on LinkedIn Learning, You will find most of these courses for free. Then also, I'm going to drop something in the chat. There's something called, I forgot to add it to this slide, Basel Institute of Governance. So if you go to the Basel Institute of Governance, they have very impressive courses. And why I like it is because you learn practically. They give you real world scenarios to learn from. And you walk through those cases. You investigate those cases until the point you get your certificate. So it's very practical. It's very straightforward. It's not time consuming. I did most of it on my phone. And you get a certificate that you can put on your LinkedIn. If you want to check some of the certifications, the important ones, you can check my LinkedIn profile. You'll see the ones I took from Basel Institute. And then you can check my LinkedIn profile. You see the ones I took from Coursera and Udemy. So these are courses you can take depending on your focus. It's also important to have basic knowledge of SQL and Python. There are tools, I try to learn using game now. Most of the programming languages have been gamified. So there are online Python games that you can just play. You're playing and learning how to code at the same time. And I would advise that whatever you're doing, try to combine it with AI. There's a free cargo course on AI ethic. I'll leave the website cargo.com in the chat. You can access this course. And to make yourself stand out, these are some of the certifications you should consider taking. ACAMS, or CAMS, as it is popularly known, is the global gold standard for AML certification. I've not taken ACAMS because it is very expensive, and but I still want to take it. I've taken the CFCS. I would advise, there's a Nigerian chapter of both CAMS and CFCS. CFCS offers yearly scholarship. So I applied for the scholarship 2 years ago and was able to take this exam for free. I would advise you to keep in touch, subscribe to their newsletter, join the local chapter, whether you're in Nigeria or any part of the world, and whenever there is an opportunity, try to volunteer. You could be considered for a scholarship. Then there's also the International Compliance Diploma. There's the Certified Fraud Examiner. And if you're into cybersecurity and AI governance, you will want to take the GRC certification. There's a particular one related to AI governance at the moment, and I'm preparing to take it. I can't remember the full acronym of what that stands for. So next, we're almost done. Please bear with me. The future of compliance and FinCrime. It's going to be a combination of artificial intelligence and human intelligence. Like I said earlier, those that will control the sector are those using AI. No matter how bright you are, if you're not leveraging AI at the moment, someone that leverages AI will take your job. Then crypto regulation is going to reach a matured state, especially with most of the Bitcoin going to be mined, I think, in a few years' time. It's also going to be based on preventive paradigm, and there will be cross-border cooperation. It's already happening. A good example is how the patron saint of Nigerian fraudster, Hush Popia, he was arrested. He's a Nigerian. He was living in the UAE. The FBI was looking for him. They've spoken to the Nigerian authorities. They've spoken to the United Arab Emirates. They've obtained the required legal document to come in and pick him. And he was just there enjoying himself, doing TikTok, doing Instagram, and knock knock, who is there? It's the FBI, and they picked him. So stay away from crime, please. And the knowledge from this will make you kind of dangerous, especially if you're working in investigation, because you have many insider knowledge. So you want to keep your mouth shut. I remember when I was a customer support agent and I was working out of Estonia. Someone called me one day. It's for money that was flagged off, and he was angry and he was cursing and he was speaking in Yoruba. He didn't know who is at the other end of the line. So at some point, I had to tell him to calm down in Yoruba language. And he was like, Omo Yami. I started speaking Yoruba and he was trying to convince me that I should just help him out. And once he cash out this one, he will close the accounts. So, but I couldn't. Strategic compliance. Compliance evolving from cost center to competitive advantage. Because of technology now, the cost associated with compliance is going to drop down drastically. I remember I was tired of hearing my team lead then mention all the time that this department is the one costing the company the most money all the time. It made us feel like we were a burden to the company, even though we were doing very important, sensitive job. Andre, please mention it to Gigi that we should probably do a session on specifics like suspicious activity reports, because anyone applying for jobs in, let's say, AML investigation, fraud detection, most companies will give you a take-home assignment and they want to see your skill with writing SAR. So we could do a specialized session on that one. Professionals with deep technology understanding will lead the next generation of compliance specialists. So my final take, I'm going to read this. The intersection of compliance, technology, and financial crime is fundamentally reshaping global finance. The professionals who develop risk awareness, technical skills, and ethical judgments will lead the next decade of innovation. This is not simply about following rules. It is about building trusted, resilient financial systems that serves billions of people worldwide while protecting them from emerging threats. Thank you. And again, this is the QR code to my LinkedIn. If you want to connect, you can scan down now. And let's take the questions. If you have any questions, I think we already have some in the chat. We can discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that wonderfully insightful session. Honestly, personally, I was taking notes. Honestly, it was just so, it was really, really enriching. I tell you, even now my mind is still buzzing. I don't even know where to start. I was just jotting and jotting and jotting all the things you mentioned, the pig butchery, the sophisticated scams, the enhanced, market for scams and everything. It's been a wonderful session. A quick recap, we went through the global compliance landscape, what is happening in the global world, how anti-money laundering standards are now being stricter, how data privacy is being expanded, which is one of the things that we've actually taken on one of our sessions. Also global coordination, very interesting. I remember you were talking about how Hush Puppy was was apprehended. You also talked about how technology is transforming compliance. Very interesting. All the ways that technology is now making compliance look very different from what we were taught. A lot of us were taught in school. A lot of what we thought, it would be just taking each law and be reading it page by page, and then we are now realizing that a lot of these are actually being streamlined Now we have a lot of these automated tools that are identifying risks, that are identifying patterns, and they're also automating reports. It talked about how we can even, as newbies, we can sit down and vibe code a lot of these things, and then sit down and have a lot of these things just being taken care of using technology, using AI. Very, very insightful session. As Emmanuel has mentioned, we will be ensuring that these slides will be made available to all of us. I can assure you, this is not something that we want to keep hidden. So anybody has any questions, you can drop it in the chat. You can drop it in the chat. Somebody's saying the webinar, yes, our webinar started by 6. Emmanuel and I arrived here before 6, so you don't have to bother. In any case, this has been recorded, so you will get the link to not only these slides, you also get the link to this recording. But please, if you have any questions for Emmanuel based off of this webinar, you can drop it either in the chat or in the Q&A section. Meanwhile, I was actually one thing I noticed, Emmanuel, in this session is that you focused a lot on the global scale of what not only fraud and scams, also how fraud and scams are being fought against, basically. A lot of it are happening on the global stage. There is now increased globalization, collaboration, actually, not only in between regulatory authorities, but even among criminals. We're talking about how someone in China is defrauding someone in the US, someone in Nigeria is defrauding someone probably in the Philippines. And I'm wondering, what is the picture for fintech, compliance, technology, everything we've spoken, but what is the picture in regionally? So say Africa, or in the case of your focus, America. I know you mentioned something about how America is where they innovate, EU is where they regulate, and China is where they replicate. But each of these regions still have their own financial technological companies. So what is compliance and regulation looking like in all this? For example, let's try and localize it here in Nigeria. So what is the picture like for us here in Nigeria? Because we have a lot of fintech companies now. In fact, it's one of the fastest growing fields here in Nigeria. We are having this fintech app pop up more and more. So what is the regulatory picture like here in Nigeria?
I would say that globalization caught us unprepared. We were not prepared. Most of the people on this call are lawyers. You know how many of the laws in the most of the Nigerian laws that were inherited and have been enforced even before independence. So we were not ready to regulate the fintech when it arrived. And one thing that comes to mind, for example, is some of these Chinese loan companies that came into Nigeria. They were at some point operating just as they wish. They send messages to people's relatives to pay up loan. They were basically loan sharks. They curse out people in text messages. We see all these things online. These are things that regulation should have gone ahead of, right? I mean, unless I'm someone's guarantor, you shouldn't be harassing me just because a friend of mine or a classmate of mine, or because we were in the same church group. You just this member of your church took loan, has not paid. It's always ridiculous and funny. So Nigeria wasn't ready, but with the recent some of the legislations, which I think in some cases we just copy, we don't try to really adapt them to the local scenario, and not until we test them out for some years, then we realize that maybe it's not working out for us. So Nigeria didn't really come in ready. I would say even the effective regulations that we have were more like pioneered by some of the top fintechs themselves. They had to reach out to government, okay, this is how we want to be regulated and all that. Then there's also the issue of we don't have a stable policy on some things. We all remember what happened with crypto technology. Are we going to adopt it? No. Are we going to ban it? No. The government tried to ban it and then they couldn't. In fact, Nigerians are some of the earliest adopters of cryptocurrency. And why that happened is because the government went against it. And Nigerians will find a way. Youth, generally, anywhere in the world, will find a way with things like cryptocurrency. It has come to stay.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Emmanuel. It's clear that even if we don't want to move, we will have to move. It's very clear. And I hope that everybody who is attending this session will be ready so that when we are being moved, we can pick up our things and move just as quickly. So thank you very much for that insightful session. This has been wonderful again. You can connect with Emmanuel on his LinkedIn. His name is Emmanuel Jonathan. There is a QR code on the screen. You can scan it and connect with him. He has given us leeway to connect with him and contact him. Just ensure that you inform him that you attended this webinar and he will be all ears. Thank you again very much, Emmanuel, for your time. Again, it's wonderful and we are very, very, very happy to be here. So, as I have mentioned, someone's hand is raised.
Yes,
hello.
I see.
Could you please put your question? Oluwatishe. Could you put your question in the chat or in the Q&A section if you have one? Please put your questions in the chat or, okay, question. The EU AI Act, somebody is asking this question, Emmanuel. The EU AI Act makes provision for prohibited AI practices, but also creates a sandbox to foster innovation. What is your opinion on this, paying particular attention to the growing potential of AI? How sure are we that these control measures will be effective, considering we are still unsure of the potential of AI? This is very insightful. Okay, I'm going to hand this over to you, Emmanuel. It's basically talking about a regulatory act from the EU AI Act, and what's, if it to be effective given how the potential of AI keeps growing every day. So over to you.
AI is a very dangerous technology. We already know that. It's for people who have been watching sci-fi for a while, you will have known that most of the dystopian movies always starts with a rogue AI launched a nuclear weapon, launched the Chinese nuclear weapon, launched the US nuclear weapon, and the world came to an end. It's always been like that. So it's a dangerous technology. We all know that. I used to live in the EU, and I think most times their regulations are too suffocating, let me put it that way. It makes it near impossible for startups to survive. So yes, it has a sandbox to foster innovation, but it's almost near impossible for a young company that is starting off with maybe 100,000 euro to do anything innovative without being found out of existence. So if you look at the US as a direct contrast to that, the recent Big Beautiful Bill actually prohibits states from regulating AI for the next 10 years. It kind of gives a leeway to companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Palantir to innovate as much as possible, because just like we had the Cold War some few years back, now it's the AI war. And it's no longer between US and Russia. It's now between US and China. They both want to win. And what are they trying to achieve? They are trying to achieve AGI, artificial general intelligence. the first person to achieve AGI will determine where the world goes from there, basically, because the applications are endless. Defense, medicine, every aspect of the future will be controlled by AI. So I don't think the control measures are enough. Personally, I'm scared out of my wits sometimes, because there was a time, Anthropic again, the makers of cloud AI, were testing a model, right? And I don't know if we read it, if anyone has read it. The model actually was threatening its trainers. They were trying to shut it off. And it has some information about the trainer. And it was threatening the trainer that he's going to disclose to the wife that he was having an affair. So basically, the AI knows how to blackmail. And these are just still like the earliest versions of AI. So imagine what will happen when we have artificial general intelligence. So it's an assignment for regulators. And this is where we lawyers come in. It's an assignment for us. We have to try and go ahead. We have to try to think ahead. There's also the debate on whether AI is actually intelligent, right? Some people like Apple, they wrote a paper, an opinion paper recently that is contending that what we have now is just majorly memory capacity. Like this AI is just trained to remember. Like it just have like a large memory space and it can remember and put together patterns, and that is not really intelligent. But I think it's intelligent because that is looking at intelligence strictly from the human perspective. That is a form of intelligence. AI now can write a brief of arguments that will take me maybe half a day. AI can write it in seconds. So that's a different form of intelligence, but it is intelligence anyway.
All right. I hope that answered your question, Dara. Thank you very much. We're already out of time. Thank you very much for everyone who attended this webinar. This webinar was presented to you by Injukim Legal. You can access us at injukimlegal.com. Injukim is spelled Njunkim. You can access our website, injukimlegal.com. Follow us on all our social media platforms. You can also sign up for our blogs and sign up for our newsletter. We are very, very happy to have you here. As I mentioned, this is a webinar series, which means that we will be bringing you another insightful session next month. So please be on the lookout. Ensure that you follow our social media platforms and sign up for our blogs and our newsletter and visit our website. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We are very, very happy that we had this
Before
session.
we go, I want to give a quick thank you to God's Grace for inviting me.
Yes.
And also, I see some of my people. Uncle Shegun Oladejo, I see you. Thank you for coming. It's been a while. Let's catch up. Thank you, Patience. Thank you, Patience Paul. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming. It's very nice to see familiar names in the chat.
Yes.
And thank
you very much for being here. It was my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you very much for being here. All right, everyone. See you at the next one. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye. Bye, Emmanuel. Bye. Let's catch up later. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone. Please don't forget to fill out our form at the end of this webinar. You'll be getting it in your email, but thank you very much. So please fill our feedback form. We'd love to hear back from you. So bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you.